lovely people, and welcome back to this week's new video. I'm back with the mid-year book freakout tag. I feel like that is just absolutely wild to me that we're already in almost July. Hello, if you're new here, my name is Noah. I'm a bookish and lifestyle vlogger, born and raised and still based in New York City, so if that sounds like of any interest to you, I would absolutely love it if you would stick around and subscribe at the end if you so please. I look like a little bit of an egg, a little bit of a sweaty egg. It's very hot and we've been doing looks like so much laundry since we came back from our trip. I have a pile of books next to me and let's just get straight into it. My goal for this year is to read 150 books, and so far I am 6 books behind. I have read 67 books so far. A lot of them have been 2 stars. I've had a handful of 5 stars. We are going to talk about them here. The first prompt is best book you've read so far this year, and I probably should have made this stack a little bit more organized. That is The Stationery Shop by Marjan Kamali. I actually read this from the library, but I had to go out and pick out my own copy, and look at this gorgeous, gorgeous book. First of all, florals, like my thing. That's like the only print that I wear, essentially. And it is just a really beautiful, beautiful story. I didn't expect to love it so much until the end, so that's why. And it is absolutely a powerful love story, a little bit of historical fiction in there as well. It is about 2 young kids who fall in love during the political upheaval in Tehran in 1953, and they both find peace and quiet in this one stationery shop, and they're introduced to each other by the shop owner, and they fall in love until they are supposed to meet at the town square. But something like there's like it's like chaotic and violence erupts in this town square they were supposed to meet, and the guy Baman never shows up. So Roya is forced to kind of go on with her life, and it follows them like decades after, the past and the future, right? The past and the present, something like that. Second prompt, best sequel you've read so far this year. I think it's Jade War by Fonda Lee. I did also really enjoy Dragon Republic though. These are honestly like at the same level for me, and I'm so glad that I picked these up last year. So amazing. This is from the Greenbone Saga, and this is from the Poppy War trilogy. They're both trilogies, both high fantasy, adult fantasy, and amazing time with these. New release you haven't read yet but want to. That is The Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James. I picked up my first book by Simone St. James via Book of the Month, The Sundown Motel, which was dedicated to murderinos, which I absolutely loved, which is like an inside thing for any fans of My Favorite Murder. And so I saw this as an option coming out this year. It's basically like a true crime blogger who goes to investigate a cold case, and I still haven't picked it up. I did pre-order this as well, so I really would like to get into it. It was published earlier this year. My most anticipated release for the second half of the year is Difficult. I believe I don't know if it's like considered this like second half of the year, so I'm not gonna mention it because I think it comes out in July though. So it is House Across the Lake by Riley Sager, which I'm pretty sure came in the mail. I just need to unbox it. I'm pretty sure that's what it is because I pre-ordered it. Otherwise, I don't really follow new releases. I have a list up until August, but I don't know what it would be. If you have any, please let me know. I'm like super on top of it at the beginning of the year, but otherwise I really fall through. Biggest disappointment, I have one that I finished and gave 2 stars and one that I ended up DNFing. So the one that I gave 2 stars was On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. I had heard lots of things about this beautiful writing and whatnot. This is basically a letter from a son to his illiterate mother, and the speaker, named Little Dog, is in his late 20s, and he's unearthing his family's history and kind of going around of his history and his family's history in Vietnam to his coming of age. Ocean Vuong is a poet. I really wanted to like this. Everyone who has read this has loved it, but for me, beautiful writing wasn't enough. There wasn't enough of a plot, there wasn't enough of a connection for me to really say that I could enjoy it. Second one, the one that I DNF'd, is To Paradise by Hanya Yanagihara. And this one I DNF'd because it just wasn't sucking me in. A Little Life is one of the most heartbreaking books I've ever read. It is also one of, it feels wrong to say favorites, but it's not something that could be beat. And I really didn't like her other book either, People in the Trees, so I think, I don't know, maybe A Little Life was just a one-hit wonder. I was also like not in the best headspace reading To Paradise. I had been DNFing a lot of books, reading a lot of 2-star books. Will I give it another try? Honestly, I don't know. I'm not in the mood for it at this point, and I read it like, I think in February or March when it came out. Those two were pretty disappointing. And in terms of biggest surprise, it could have been disappointing also, but The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. I did still give this book 4 stars. However, I loved the guest list so much. It was one of my favorite books of 2020, and I have yet to read Hunting Party, which I do own, but this wasn't like even close to the same level as the guest list. So I'm kind of nervous about Hunting Party because I know that book was published first, to see where it would fall on the spectrum, because guest list is obviously pretty high, and 4 stars obviously isn't a terrible review at all, and it does follow along the same premise of like whodunit kind of situation, having multiple characters and them all having kind of a motive, but it just wasn't best, which I was shocked by. Number 7 is favorite new author. I don't know if I have like an immediate favorite, but I think that Karen Slaughter is confirmed as a top author for me, just because I have enjoyed a lot of their books. Obviously not all of them, but definitely their thrillers are something that I will definitely gravitate towards and also recommend. Ashley Winstead is another one who I would like to keep my eye on. I read In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. Loved. Amazing. 5 stars. Super fun read, super intriguing, and just like so engaging that it just like captured me, and I can't wait to see what else they're coming out with. I think they have a new book coming out in August, so I will definitely, that's on my list as well. I don't know the title, I don't know the name of it, I'll have it here, but that is definitely something that I have written down. My newest fictional crush is, I won't say he's like totally new, but because I got to know more about him, I think Andon, he's just such a softie, and he just wants to be seen. Everything about him, I talked about this in the vlog in which I read this book, but I felt like he came into his own a little bit more in Jade War because he's alone, away from everyone in Kekon, and he's just like trying to figure out his own way to survive, kind of be separate from the Call family, but also kind of wanting to be there, and I really just loved learning more about him. In terms of my newest favorite character, also from this sequel, I'm gonna say Kite. The way that I am envisioning him and his curly hair is V with his perm and the glasses and like everything. Non-blonde, you know, the black hair. So adorable, so cute, so dorky, and I absolutely live for that. And I think he's just so much more fun, and there's a lot of anger that he's holding on to in this book for obvious reasons if you've read The Poppy War. His bond with Rin in this one too, like even more so. If you know, you know. I just really enjoyed. Number 10, book that made you cry. Honestly, one of the reasons why it became a 5-star read is because it made me cry, but it is The Stationery Shop, and it is the only book that has made me cry so far this year. I don't cry very often when reading books. That's why also A Little Life was super impactful to me. Highly recommend. If you take away anything from this, it's gonna be, you know, read this book. Number 11, book that made you happy. First one is Thank You Mama by Linda Meeker. If you know the account Gray and Mama on Instagram, this is a picture book that the mom wrote about Gray and his little polite behavior and how gracious he is and thankful he is, and it's just so sweet. I love following this family. They have their dogs in here as well, and also bonus that there's like delicious looking food in here. It also smells amazing. The second one is like kind of like a graphic memoir type of situation, but this graphic novelist named Philippa Rice, comic artist? I don't know, but she has a few books out, and I read her newest book, I think, Baby, because now she has a baby in her life, and the first one follows like her love story of falling in love with her husband, and it's so adorable. Just the art style is so cute. It's all done in like black, red, and white. It's very simplistic, and it is just absolutely adorable. Number 12 is the most beautiful book you've bought and received so far this year, and I honestly can't stop talking about it, but it's going to be The Stationery Shop, but I've talked about it so many times. I'll say the most like fun and unique book is Things We Do in the Dark by Jennifer Hillier, because this glows in the dark. This is coming out in July, so next month. So I have an early edition, and it is so cool. Shout out to Minotaur Books for sending this, because it is so cool and I can't wait to read it. I think I'll try to get to reading it maybe this week, honestly, since it's coming out in July, but I'll include a clip of it glowing in the dark as well. It is so cool. Reminds me of like when you're a kid and you get like so excited about these things. When Paris Peralta was arrested in her own bathroom, covered in blood, holding a straight razor, her celebrity husband dead in the bathroom. She knows she's in serious trouble. That reminds me of Grown by Tiffany Jackson. But as bad as it looks, the arrest is not what worries her the most. With the unwanted media attention now surrounding her, it's only a matter of time before someone from her old life recognizes her and destroys everything she's worked so hard to build, because Paris has a dark past and she'll do anything to keep it hidden. That just sounds really fun, and I know that this was an anticipated read for me as well. And lastly, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? I have a lot of books. I've narrowed it down to 3 so far, or at least 4-ish. I definitely do want to catch up on all of the book of the month books that I have not yet read. I think there's like 5 at this point. A few of them are from like 2 years ago, and I didn't read my June pick, I think, or May pick, because it's sort of wintry and I want to save it for the winter. Those, and then Beautiful World, Where Are You, which was published I think in November of last year. Normal People by Sally Rooney was my favorite book of 2021, I think. 2020, one of them. I'm losing track of time. So I really wanted to read this. I do also own Conversations with Friends. I don't know if I'm interested in the show though. Mixed thoughts about that. Let me know if you've watched it. And then obviously, because I've enjoyed the sequel so much, I want to get to The Last Installations, which is kind of sad because it's the last one and I have thoroughly enjoyed this. I read both of the first books last year. It took me a minute to remember what happened and to fall back into the world, but regardless, I still thoroughly enjoyed these. I do have a bunch of books to read on my TBR shelf and whatnot, but honestly, we would be here all day if I went through all of them, and I do have a video of all the unread books, so you can go look at that if you want to see what else I need to catch up on. There's a few fantasy series, and honestly, with reading the Greenbone Saga and the Poppy War trilogy, I feel like I'm reading a lot more fantasy this year and enjoying it as well. So that is absolutely new for me, because that is not a genre that I tend to gravitate towards, and I prefer to read series all at once, just because I don't have I have pretty selective memory, which is why like when I find books that I like, I want to keep them and reread them, and I feel like I'm always discovering new things. So I cannot believe it's almost July. Please let me know how many books you've read so far this year and what your favorite book of the year is so far this year. And if you're behind on your Goodreads goal, you are not the only one. I have never been so behind. I've never been behind also. I'm not overly stressed about it because it's just one silly little goal that I can adjust, but I am still having a fun time reading my books, and I hope that I discover more that I enjoy later this year. So thank you so much for sticking around and watching. Please give it a big thumbs up, and I will see you all in my next video. Happy reading. Bye.